Welcome back to Yes, I'm Adopted, Don't Make It Weird. Today we are going to be talking about the 6 hurdles in the book Beneath the Mask.
What's the first hurdle?
Oh. You want that? Oh, I have to read it real quick. Hang on. You get it? Woo!
So, recently we've been discussing the book Beneath the Mask, which was written by the Case Institute, specifically for raising adolescent adoptees and as parents of adolescent adoptees. And this is a book that I really like, not so much that I want to, like, caress it and clutch it to myself, apparently. That's creepy.
Your face.
Yeah, no, not like that. I really like this book because it's mostly clinical. It addresses some very real issues for adoptees, especially during the adolescence phase, and it addresses those same issues for parents, which I think is kind of a big deal. So this has broken down 6 of the major issues, or they call them hurdles, that adoptees face as they mature and grow. And so we're going to discuss those and kind of tell a couple of stories and talk about how we came to reconciliation with these hurdles.
But first...
Oh, they didn't sponsor this. We're just doing this.
Yeah, it's not a sponsor. But look at my mug. Look at this mug. Look at this. We got these cool mugs.
We did.
And they're slightly terrifying because they have our faces on them.
That's true.
At the last conference that we spoke at in Indiana, they surprised us. They were super excited about getting these mugs. So thank you, Jennifer, for designing these. She was really proud of this.
As well, she should.
So, first hurdle that it talks about is something that we are very familiar with, something that we've talked a little bit about on this channel already, and by a little bit, I mean a lot. The first hurdle is identity.
So, Brett.
So, Davo.
What can you tell us about identity?
Well, you see, Davo, identity is super important.
Thanks for joining us on this episode.
So let's break this down a little bit. So what is the
So identity is a big deal for everybody right now.
Huge.
Like identity is
a hot topic.
It's a super hot topic. It's a super hot button issue that's being talked about by adoptees. Like it came up in both keynotes at the conference in Indianapolis that we were at, and it's come up a lot. I mean, like the whole movie Moana may as well be about identity, right? Like. And it's just such a huge thing because it's important that we know who we are.
Yes.
Right? Because who we are informs how we make decisions, and it's a big deal. And we live in a time and in a society in which we're supposed to discover ourselves, and we're pretty inept at that.
Yeah.
And identity is very kind of difficult right now anyway, and then you add on top of that the adoption issue, which the reason that identity is such a big deal for an adoptee is because of our lack of historical narrative. As a non-adopted person, it would be interesting to try to imagine what it would be like to not know your family history. Right? Or not even to be able to access your family history or know what's there, know who you look like, know who you act like, all those kinds of things. And as an adoptee, we don't have that. We're not able to go back and ask those questions for the most part. And so it makes it doubly difficult to establish who we are, right? It's that quintessential human question. Who am I?
Just like that.
And therein lies the hurdle.
So how do we get past this? What kind of steps do we have to take in order to decide our identity? Especially since, as adoptees, we kind of grow up not really knowing what that is. Now, I'll say this, and this is something that I talk to a lot of parents about. This is something that, because this is a big question that comes up on our channel a lot. We receive messages about this. Hey, I have a teenager, or I have a young kid. They're going through this. What can I do? A big thing as a parent, and I'm going to take it from a parental standpoint right now, because I'm doing this with my kid. He does with his kids already. We instill that identity in them. We speak that identity over them. And we tell them who they are constantly. With my kid, she is like stupidly adorable, and I make sure that she knows that. And she's really good at playing that now. It's terrible. I think I did a horrible mistake, actually, that.
It's maybe a problem.
Yeah, it is now. But, I tell her that she's loved constantly. I tell her that she's smart constantly, that she's strong, that she, can take care of, her little 2.5-year-old problems that she has. And, just starting to instill that on her now from a young age. This is something that my parents were actually pretty good at. My adoptive parents, they were really good at instilling identity in me at a young age. I never grew up feeling, and this is a huge, I guess problem with a lot of adoptees, is they don't feel like they're a part of their family. And that was never the case for me growing up. Not until my teenage years when I started questioning a lot of things, but when I was younger, I always felt like I was an immediate part of my family.
Yep.
There was never, I was the adopted kid.
Sure.
This is, like, my parents would introduce me as, this is my kid, Brett. Not, here's the little child that we saved from Korea. That would be awful. They didn't introduce me as their adopted kid. They introduced me as their own kid. So that was a big part of it for me. And I never felt like I was a part of the outside of the family, just trying to work my way in.
Identity is a big deal, and I'll continue to reiterate that it's important that we as parents instill identity in our kids. We tell them who they are as part of our history, regardless of what that history is.
Right.
And as adults, it's up to us to take and reject whatever it is that we feel is necessary at that time. But as children, it's especially important that we tell kids who they are, because we're not capable of discovering that
as small children.
Because it's a decision, right? Like, those are important decisions to be made by adults. It's especially important that adults, the parents, know who you are before you start telling other people, your kids specifically, who they are, so that you can recognize the things that are important, right? And this is a big deal regardless of adoption status or family status or any of that stuff. Like, as parents, know who you are. Like, know what you stand for, know what your values are, all that kind of stuff. And even little quirky things that you can pass on, because that's what this legacy is about. It's about passing something on. My kids today, if you ask them, will never tell you that they're bored, because overholsters don't get bored.
Yep.
Right? Nobody in my family is allowed to say that they're bored, because your brain works. So imagine something.
Do something.
Right? Like, do anything. And that's a thing that's been instilled in me, that came from my parents, that came from their parents, that we don't get bored. It's not allowed. Yep. Right? And that's an essential part of my identity, and so it's an essential part of their identity.
Yeah.
And that's really important. So to look at all these different things and say, okay, well, what do I stand for, and what do I want my kids to stand for? And I'm going to tell them that. And you're going to do the best you can, right? And you're going to give them the best that you're able to give them. But when they get to the age where they're able to decide, they're going to look at that foundation, and there better be a foundation there, so that they can decide and choose bits and pieces that are what they want to be as they reach maturity and grow older.
And as adults, he mentioned this before, we've said this multiple times, but as adults, we decide. We make decisions, and we decide what our identity is, essentially. There are so many, and I'm going to try to not sound ranty right now. There are so many adults, young adults, old adults, middle adults, it doesn't matter. There are so many adults out there who struggle with this every single day. They don't know who they're supposed to be. That part, like, it irritates me, and it kind of boggles my mind a little bit, because, again, we decide who we are. You decide what you're going to do every single day. Do you want to get up in the morning? Do you not want to get up in the morning? Do you want to be late for work? Do you want to be on time for work? There's all these decisions that we're constantly making every single day. So why can't you decide who you are? I got ranty. I apologize. I was going to try not to. It got there.
As a core belief, we believe that you make decisions. That your identity will inform most of your decisions, and that at a point you get to decide what that identity is. I don't know. Every kid goes through this. Like, it's an 80-20, right? Like, every kid goes through, kid. Who am I?
Right.
And then they go backpacking through Europe.
Yeah.
Discover
they take a year off after high school to find themselves before they go to school.
Right. Or something. And I'm not saying that there's that's invalid.
Right.
But I just think it's easier if, as children, you're told, so that you have something to go off when you're an adult.
Yeah. Right? For me, like, okay, so teenage years, right? Let's get into this here for a second. Teenage years, I got not necessarily picked on, but pointed out, that I was different.
Sure.
And so I did get all the questions. Hey, do you know martial arts? Do you know kung fu? It was mostly, do you know karate?
Which you do.
Which I do. Don't mess with me. Are you good with computers?
Which you do.
I'm good with computers. Do you like math?
Which you don't.
I don't like math. And so I had these questions come up constantly with other kids around me. They would be asking me these questions, and so that really kind of put things into perspective after a while. It's like, okay, maybe I should be good at martial arts. Maybe I should be good at math. Mm-hmm. Maybe I should be this, that, or the other thing, because so many people were trying to point it out to me. This is what your culture does, so you need to be good at it. And for a while, I did fall into that pitfall of thinking that I was inadequate because I didn't like math, or I wasn't good at math, or I needed to be better at knowing how to do a flying kick better than the other kid. I don't know. Like, there were a lot of these things. I do need to know that, by the way. It's an important skill.
That's a life skill that everyone should know.
But it was one of those things that, as far as like identity goes, when I was in middle school, that age, I was trying to decide who I wanted to be, but I was going based off who everybody else said I was supposed to be.
Sure.
Which was a problem.
Right. So the point is this. If you as the parent are not instilling identity in your child, they're going to get it someplace else.
Somebody else is going to tell them.
They're going to get it from their peer group, or they're going to get it from a well-meaning stranger or an ill-meaning stranger. Yep. Like that's where it's going to come from. And it's important that that's your job. That's part of your job as the parent, is to say, here you go. Here's who we are as a people, because you're part of our people.
Yep.
Okay. Now, adult adoptees that are watching, at a point, you get to decide. So just start making some decisions. Try on some identity like a hat. I don't know. Like,
I want to be this person today.
Give it a go and see who you actually are.
Right.
And then start living that. Right. There comes a point where you can't blame anybody else anymore. Yeah. You have to take that on and say, yes! this is who I am, or maybe nobody did tell me, so now I need to decide. Put on a new identity like that hat.
Yeah, like that hat. Now I am hatless Brett.
We should get identity hats.
Yeah.
Merch.
No, I need the hat. I need
merch.
This is my new identity. Welcome to it. I can't do that.
Thank you.
So
I don't like that guy.
And that's how we decide our identity, is if other people around us don't like it. Moral of the story, as a terrible moral to end on.
We did it.
Sorry, Drac. All right.
Oh man!
So that's it for today's episode on identity. There's a lot of thoughts that go around who we should be, how we decide our identity, and there's a lot of different ways to get there. To be quite honest, like, we just kind of talk about the stuff that worked for us. There's other people that have to go through different experiences and different life phases in order to truly decide who they are. But don't be afraid of deciding, honestly. Don't be afraid of making that decision. Stick with it, and if it doesn't work, live with the consequence and move on. The end. Done. Thank you for joining us on Yes, I'm Adopted. Don't make it weird.
Good outro. I feel like every one of your statements this week got to a rant at the end.
It did. It's because I'm sick right now.
You identify as a person that rants at the end, I think. That's the.
I spelled T on me. Davo, just do the outro so I can go and...
I don't have an outro.
Be clean.
I didn't have an outro last week.
Well, do the like, comment, share, and subscribe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that thing.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Yes, I'm Adopted, Don't Make It Weird. That was kind of our rambly answer to the issue of identity as it pertains to adoptees and parents of adoptees and older adoptees and everybody in the adoption triad. So again, thank you so much. What do you think about identity? Go ahead and drop us that in the comments below, or join us on our group. Yes, I'm Adopted, Don't Make It Weird. Someplace on the Facebooks. I don't know where you put that.
It's in the description.
It's in the description. Go ahead and check us out there. Get excited. We do have a lot of cool new things in the works that are coming up here. So that's all coming along. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. And I don't have an outro, so... Oh, we're doing that. Glitch transition.